going on, dudes and dudettes? It's kind of dark. Ugh. There you go. So yes, what's going on? Jackson Dart and Michael Trigg, both freshmen that came into USC this last offseason, are looking to go into the transfer portal already. So it kind of looks like that Caleb Williams news of the ex-Oklahoma quarterback coming to USC might be true, which is kind of okay, I guess, but I did say this is what would happen because Dart is too good enough of a quarterback to not go somewhere else and still play right away, get to the NFL quicker. And Trigg, I was kind of surprised with, just because he did miss a lot this year because of injury, and coming in with a supposedly better quarterback, you thought he would get enough playing time, but apparently not. Or I know they did mention that they're trying to keep him, but we'll see how that goes. All these kids get angry right away and make some irrational decisions, but we'll see how that goes. And then a wide receiver from Colorado named Brendan Rice, he's actually the son of 49ers Hall of Famer receiver Jerry Rice, is actually really considering going to USC to play the same position, wide receiver. So I know I liked him coming out of high school. He was a California kid, decided to go to Colorado, but luckily he's actually thinking about coming to USC. I know it's going to be really crowded over there with especially the wide receiver group, but those guys from Oklahoma the past couple years with this coach have gotten drafted no matter how much you played. So I guess that's the way he's looking at it. I'm definitely happy about that. So we'll see. Then the Lakers are pretty interested in two of the same guys, but there's one guy that popped up that was pretty surprising, but it's only really surprising to me because if they would have just listened to me a few years ago in the draft, they'd have him on their team already, but they're stupid. So yes, Gary Trent Jr., the ex-Duke shooting guard, is a guy they're really interested in. He was with Portland, he got drafted there, got traded to Toronto, got a big contract, and now for some reason they might be looking to move him. I guess because they have to pay someone else next year, which is kind of weird. But yeah, he would fit good with the Lakers. He can shoot the three ball very well, make his own shot, and play some defense somewhat. So we'll see how that goes. They're also interested in a guy from Detroit and Jeremy Grant, who we've all known they've been very interested in. I just don't know. I don't think they're going to be able to get him because other teams might be able to give up a bit more valuable properties than the Lakers can right now. Same thing with Miles Turner. I think Indiana pretty much wants to implode their whole team. They don't really care who they keep, so he might be easier to get. I just don't know if he's going to solve a lot of issues for the Lakers playing the center position next to Anthony Davis whenever he comes. It could be a stalemate to where they just kind of stay the same, don't really win any more games, but it could help out if Anthony Davis ends up missing more time because of the stupid injury. So we'll see. Then a random scout in the NFL. He was anonymous, so he didn't want to be named because this is a stupid declaration that he made. But according to him, he believes that Justin Herbert's arm is just as good, if not better, than Aaron Rodgers' arm. Now, I'm not the one to defend Aaron Rodgers, but he and Mahomes are kind of on the different tier when it comes to throwing the ball, because they can do like sidearms, kind of like baseball looking throws instead of just a normal traditional over regular throw, which is what Herbert does. He does that really well, but you got to give him some time in order to do it. That's the problem. He can't just adjust and flick the ball, 50 yards like some of these other guys can, in my opinion. But I don't know. I think he's going to get himself, whoever that executive is, in some hot water because of that take, and I don't think a lot of people are going to trust him. Then Mac McClung, an ex-Lakers player who got picked up by the Chicago Bulls. For some reason, they didn't want to re-sign him to another 10-day deal or a real contract, so now he reverts back to the Lakers' secondary team, the South Bay Lakers. So it's kind of cool that he does get to come back, and maybe we'll see if the Lakers have a spot for him or not. But as it looks, I don't think they will be bringing him up to the starting team, which kind of sucks. And then during the coverage right before the national championship game, they had a couple ex-players and stuff, and because it was in Indianapolis where the Colts played, they were honoring an ex-Colts player and Stanford player, because he was getting into the College Football Hall of Fame, and Andrew Luck before the game or during halftime. I don't know when they did it, but it was pretty interesting to see him because he's one of the very few like early 30-year-old quarterbacks that decided to retire because of injuries, just because of how much he got beaten up. And it sucks because once he retired, then all of a sudden they got a better, fat guys, as I call them, offensive line to block for him. And now that quarterback is doing a lot better. So not too many injuries, but it was weird because he looked a lot skinnier, which is obvious because he was packing on so much more muscle just to even stay healthy during the NFL season with that team. And it doesn't look like he's coming back anytime soon. I think he said he's still dealing with some of these injuries, especially lower leg injuries. But I hope it was kind of like an ex-tryout for him to be like a commentator during the games, because he's a very smart dude. Not only because he went to Stanford, but he definitely knows the game of football. So it'd be kind of cool to see him get thrown in there, especially in the college ranks, and maybe work his way up to the NFL for anybody else. But it'd be cool to see him on ESPN in the future if that does happen. Then Duke had a game yesterday. I was going to watch it mostly, but decided to watch some other movie I hadn't seen yet instead. But luckily they did get the victory. It was 76-64. When I last saw it, they were losing by like a couple points, so I was kind of worried. But usually it is a close game when they're playing at Wake Forest, but they end up usually turning it up, and it was a game that Coach K was not at because he was dealing with a non-COVID illness. But luckily the next coach in waiting, his assistant coach, John Shire, it was there anyways, so it wasn't that much of a downfall in my opinion. But yes, as of right now, as a coach, I think he's undefeated. I could be wrong, but it is only interim, so I don't think it counts toward his overall record when he does become a normal head coach next year. But it was good to see some of those highlights. And Paolo Banchero, the freshman, had 24 points. The other talented freshman, AJ Griffin, had 22. So they both led the team. The other guys were just all right. They could be a lot better. But yes, luckily Griffin has finally become healthy and been able to play consistently, because you can see how good of a player he was. He's always been considered a lottery pick, a top 15 player in this year's draft, but always took a while to see it because of his injuries from high school. But definitely glad about that. And then RJ Barrett as well. He's been having a pretty good historical run the past couple games for the New York Knicks, the ex-Duke player. I guess it's the first time in consecutive games a player under a certain age for a New York Knick has put up 30-plus points in each game. So that was cool to see, and I think they were both victories for the Knicks, and they had a couple dunks in there as well, a couple good highlights. So definitely glad for him to get going. And actually another ex-player for Duke, Cam Reddish, was actually recently traded to the Knicks from Atlanta, and they were both on the same team with Zion while they were there for that 1 year. So it'll be pretty cool to see them playing together. Maybe Zion gets traded there too. They've always dreamt about playing with each other in the NBA on the same team, so that'll be pretty freaking crazy if it does happen for the Knicks. And then Lakers made a little quick re-signing. He has a tough name. Sekou Doumbouya. He was that small forward that they had for a bit. Let him go. He went to some other team but came back, and I guess he's now on a two-way contract, so he'll be with the regular team and the South Bay Lakers. And they let go of the center Jay Huff as well, since I guess Anthony Davis is supposedly going to be coming back soon, hopefully. So let's hope for that. Then NBA executives kind of did a thing where they recently chose who was the best player under a certain age that they would like on their team or to start their team with. And evidently the rookie this year from USC, Evan Mobley, was picked over a generational type of guy that everyone believed in. Zion Williamson was also an ex-Duke player. So it's kind of funny that at least two of the top players that they're picking over are from schools that I like. But yes, it's kind of interesting that they've already picked Mobley over a guy who's been in the NBA a couple of years, but he still hasn't been healthy. So I guess that's why they're choosing Mobley as of this point. Now to get into this dude. So yeah, since the Chargers lost the other day, They are picking 17th, which once again they picked in these mid to whatever 10th range picks. Again, last time they picked 17th, they did get Derwin James Jr., so that was a good pick. But recently it hasn't been that good. I know last year they got a guy like Rashawn Slater, but at least I'm not the only one asking and hoping that their GM, Tom Telesco, does get fired right before the draft so they can have someone come in and work with Staley and this team. But someone did an article saying that, or the reasons why they should fire Tom Telesco. I didn't know how bad his record was, but apparently he has 69 wins to 76 losses for the regular season, and then his teams are 2-2 in the playoffs. So they'll probably win the first game, then lose the very next game because he did not do a good enough job in the draft and in free agency as well to keep the team going far into the playoffs. So that's one category that they selected. And then also that his drafts were pretty overhyped and inconsistent, and his free agency picks as well. I can't really remember the free agencies, but definitely like since the last 9 years of first round picks, he's at least had 10 guys, because there's one time where they had 2 guys selected in the first round. But of course, the only guys he could really hit on were the no-brainers, and even they weren't even looking at these guys at all, but they just fell into their laps as usual. But guys like Derwin James, Justin Herbert, Joey Bosa, even like a Melvin Gordon, I might throw in there. I don't think he has lived up to a first round potential guy, but he still has been pretty productive even when he's gone to Denver. Right now, still playing pretty well for them. But other guys he picked his first year when I was watching him was DJ Fluker, who was a pretty good inside guard from Alabama, but never really panned out, still not on the team. Jason Verrett, who is a very injured guy, a cornerback on defense, coming from TCU, and they still selected him even though they could have gotten I think a really good defensive lineman at the time, but they went for him instead. Obviously, Mike Williams, who right now is going to be a free agent, who was a first-round wide receiver out of Clemson they went with, and I didn't really like it at the time. I thought they could have went with someone else better, but now they're in the process right now of figuring out if they're going to sign him long-term or franchise tag him, which is going to put about close to a $20 million on your cap money, which could hurt you, because right now the Chargers do have about $73 million or so to use on free agency. So that's a lot of money. That's like the second highest in the NFL. You could really shape up a really good team the next year or two before you have to pay Herbert all his money. And I hope when Herbert gets paid, he does like a Tom Brady did while at New England, where he gets paid around $20 million, which is nice, but a lot of the top quarterbacks in the NFL average 30 to 40 million. So if your quarterback, your main guy, is only getting that amount of 20, it will really help you in free agency every single year, and you could do like a 10 to 15 year deal averaging $20 million. So that would be nice. Not as big as Mahomes, but still be worth it for a guy like that. Keep around. And other guys like Jerry Tillery, my favorite Notre Dame defensive lineman that they picked, who, he's shown some flashes this year. It could be the fact that there is better players around him, so he was able to get, and he wasn't there first to get the hit or the sack or tackle, but he was a second guy after someone else did it. So I don't know who's more important in that. I guess the first person, because he's stopping the play first for the other guy to help finish. But yeah, another guy I haven't been liking at all, and has not lived up to the first round hype that he was given, and I'd never even heard of him until they had drafted him. So yeah, that was insane. And another guy, Kenneth Murray, who was a good player stats-wise his first year, but this last year with the new defensive system, he kind of was benched for a while until he had to play because of injuries, and he hasn't been really good, especially according to the head coach Brandon Staley. But obviously he didn't pick him as his main middle linebacker, but he still believes in him and thinks he can be a lot better, because he was, according to him, injured this year, and takes a while to learn this system as well. So hopefully there is some good things to happen next season for him. And if not, they have balls enough to trade him, or hopefully the general manager who's there listens to the coach every other, post-game conference and, understands what to do with the team. But yes, overall, I'm glad that other people, I think this was by a Bolts beat, so all they do is primarily write about Chargers stuff. So I'm glad they were able to get that out. And it was like a main headline on Bleacher Report, which shows all Chargers stuff a lot. So definitely glad it was out there. Hopefully it does come true. I know a lot of teams have fired a lot of GMs and coaches earlier in the week. Hopefully the Chargers think about doing it soon instead of letting this guy continue to do it, because he's probably going to have a better year this year, numbers wise, because the team is in the system for his second year. They're going to be better players because they understand and they know what to do in this COVID type of system. But yes, overall, I just think you got to do it now, get a better guy. But I really don't know general managers, because sometimes they could be an ex-player and they do very well. But yeah, this guy was definitely not an ex-player. He was an ex, son to a coach or whatever, something like that Telesco was, but we'll see. So yes, thanks for watching, people. Like and subscribe, comment down below. Let me know what y'all think. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.